Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jayme's Journal, where you get to hear about my journey to becoming a traditionally published author and reviews on urban fantasy books and series that I have read or am currently reading. So today I want to talk to you about Amanda M. Lee. She is the author of 10 different book series, including Moonstone Bay, Mystic Caravan, Charlie Rhodes, Aisling Grimlock, Deathgate, Spells Angel, Avery Shaw, Covenant College, Lily Harper Hart, and my favorite, The Wicked Witches of the Midwest series, which I will be talking about today. So The Wicked Witches of the Midwest series is a 17-book series so far. The 17th book will be coming out very, very soon. And this series actually consists of what Amanda calls regular mysteries, short mysteries, and fantasies. So she writes 2 mysteries a year, and they're typically about 6 months apart. And then she writes short mysteries, which she does 5 short mysteries a year. And those are about 27,000 word short mysteries. And each one of them has the point of view of a different character from this series. And some of them are set in the present, and some of them are set in the past. And I mean, if you enjoy the short stories interspersed, it's a really good way to get to know those characters outside of the main storyline. So I think that it's a really fantastic way to give you more of the background, because this series is written from the first person point of view. So you really get to know the main character, Bay Winchester. So you see all about Bay and what she thinks and how she experiences the world around her. And you don't get to really see what some of the other characters are thinking and feeling. So it's a really good way to be able to experience that. So this series focuses on Bay Winchester and her 2 cousins, Thistle and Clove, who are very interesting opposite kinds of characters. Clove is very timid and shy, and she's that cousin that doesn't necessarily want to do all the things that you want to do when it comes to getting into trouble and figuring out what the mystery is. But she will go along with it anyway because she doesn't want to be teased. And Thistle is the snarky, really sort of punk rock kind of girl who has the crazy hair, and she's always willing to egg you on and get you into trouble if she can. So I feel like it's a really good sort of rounded out set of characters. And they also interact a lot with their moms, who are all sisters, and their Aunt Tilly, who she has a lot of snark and she causes a lot of drama, and she's very opinionated, but she's an older woman. And so they really emphasize that. They really emphasize the fact that because she's an older woman, she gets to do kind of whatever she wants. And she gets herself into a lot of trouble most of the time just because she's causing drama in the town where they live. So this series is set in Michigan. So it is an urban fantasy, and it's a very small town of Hemlock Cove. And in the first book, which is called Any Which Way You Can, you see Bay, who has just moved back to the town, and she's a reporter. So she's working at the local newspaper. She's trying to figure out who has killed a young man and hung his body on a scarecrow in the middle of the corn maze. And if you read more and more about Hemlock Cove, you know that they have these little festivals all the time because their town has been rebranded to emphasize witches and witchcraft and really the magical aspect of that. And that's how they bring in tourism. So the 2 cousins, Thistle and Clove, actually have a shop that is focused on magic and witchcraft. And the aunts have a bed and breakfast. It's called the Overlook. Yes, it is a reference to The Shining. So they talk about that in the book. So the kicker is that this family is actually witches. And a lot of people in the town know this. And they kind of want to get rid of them because they don't like them and they don't want witches around. But here they are solving mysteries, right? This book did get a lot of negative reviews on Goodreads because people felt like there was too much snarkiness and too much back and forth between the cousins and between the moms and between the aunt and some of the people in the town. And it was a lot of bickering. And I think that if you focus on that aspect of the story, then it could be a turnoff. But for me, I felt like my draw to the story was really more centered around the characters and the character building and the world building. So I felt like in that aspect, Amanda did do a really good job because you did have pretty well-rounded characters. Yes, they are snarky, and yes, they do bicker, but I feel like that can be pretty much anybody. I know that there are times when I bicker a lot and I'm a little snarky, and I can definitely be viewed in that perspective if you look at me in short bursts sometimes. So I feel like to judge the book based solely on that doesn't necessarily do it any justice. And there were people who really enjoyed the book and gave it some really good ratings, but they also did say in their reviews that this is the type of book they read. You know, they really search out those types of books that are family-centered. This is a very family-centered series. So we do follow the three cousins and the parents all throughout the whole series. And you do get to see their dads, and you get to see love interests, and it's really kind of that you get to see their life as a whole. And another thing that people were not super excited about was that there wasn't a lot of witchcraft done. There wasn't a lot of magic necessarily in the book. Bae does see ghosts. That's her thing. And Aunt Tilly does a lot of magic, kind of. She talks about doing magic, and then you see the effects. So you don't really get to see that whole she's doing a spell kind of thing within the book. So I feel like maybe that could have been disappointing to some people. You don't get to see the actual act of doing the magic, but you do get to see the sort of fallout from whatever that magic is, because they will experience something in their life that they know Aunt Tilly definitely did. Like, they are always on somebody's list, right? Aunt Tilly will say, "Thistle, you're on my list." And the next day, "Thistle smells like bacon." Actually, that was Bae. So she put Bae on her list, and the next day, Bae smelled like bacon. And so it was this whole thing about not being able to get the smell of bacon off. And so her Aunt Tilly had actually cursed her to smell like bacon. And while we didn't get to see her actually perform a spell to make Bae smell like bacon, we did see the effects. So I feel like if you need that aspect of the witchcraft, you need that aspect of seeing how they did the spell, seeing how the magic works, then this would be disappointing. But for me personally, I think I don't necessarily need that. I don't typically really care about how that works. I just want to see it in action. So this checked off the boxes for me. One thing I didn't necessarily like about the story was that all three of their dads left. So Thistle, Bae, and Clove, their dads found out that the moms were witches and they just couldn't deal with all the snarkiness and what was going on. And so they decided to leave them. So Bae, Thistle, and Clove grew up without their dads. And they actually formed this really strong attachment to the local sheriff, which is a little bit endearing. But later on, the dads actually come back together and they open their own bed and breakfast in town. And I felt like that was a little bit weird, because then you have all the moms who are running an inn and all the dads who are running an inn. And there's not necessarily that whole familial relationship going on with the dads. They're just a bunch of dads who happen to have daughters with the same set of cousins. And I felt like it wasn't necessarily far-fetched that they would all leave, or that they would all be friends, I guess. But I felt it was a little far-fetched that they would all leave at the same time and all return at the same time and be working together. That just felt a little bit too much for me. And I really wished that Amanda would have found a way to work that into the story a little bit better and maybe reintroduce one of the dads at a time, where one comes back and sort of reunites with the daughter and builds this relationship, and then another one comes back, or the next two come back together, you know, so that you have a little bit of breakup between what's going on that side of the family tree. And you get a little bit more conflict, and you get a little bit more backstory that way, I feel like. Especially because the moms and the dads really have this awful relationship. And so I feel like Bae and the cousins have to kind of sneak around to see their dads, even though all three of them are adult women. They live in the guest house that's on the property for the overlook. So the three of them share the guest house, and the aunts run the inn, and then their dads run another inn. It's not like they're children. They are adults and they have their own business and they, do their own thing. They have their own lives. And so it felt a little strange to have them sneaking around to sort of visit their dads when, if they wanted to build that relationship, they absolutely could have. The rest of the series, I felt like, really developed the characters better and gave them a little bit more character other than just the snark. So if you didn't like that aspect of the series, I think, if you can get through that first one, power through it, if the snark isn't your thing, and move on to the next few books, I think you'll find that they're more well-rounded characters and be able to continue the series and really enjoy it. I did personally start to sort of wane on the series a little bit around book 12. And I think mostly because there wasn't a lot of new stuff going on. They had a new mystery in every book that Bay has to solve, basically, because her love interest is an FBI agent. And so she ends up helping him and the local sheriff solve mysteries all the time, even though she's told to stay out of it because she has the ability to see ghosts and therefore has a little bit more information than other people in the series. And so she can give more insight. And so I understand that, but I felt like they needed to bring in a little bit more of something else. Give her something else to work with other than just the ghosts that she's talking to. And they do sort of a little bit later, because I did hang in there and powered through and made it to the end. Well, until the last book, which will be coming out again. So I did power through, and she does end up gaining this new power because of something that she's done. And it does sort of, I don't want to say throw a wrench in things, but it makes things different. I felt like that added a better element of figuring out, why these mysteries are happening or why these murders are happening or whatever it is that they're investigating this time. It helps to get more information faster, and it gives Bay a little bit more internal conflict and external conflict because of what this new power does and what it is that she has to then work through again and build her character some more. So I think that Amanda does a good job of introducing new aspects here and there throughout the series that make you want to keep coming back and reading more. So that is my review of Amanda Lee's Wicked Witches of the Midwest series. Overall, I would say that I would give this series a 4 out of 5, mostly because, like I said, I did lose interest around book 12, and because I feel like there could be more aspects of this supernatural element and character building brought into the story. So that's why a 4 and not a 5. If you enjoyed this review and there's anything that you want to know more about or recommend, you can always feel free to reach out to me on my website, authorjaymephelps.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter to receive updates on my upcoming book and learn about future giveaways. You can hear my podcast almost anywhere you can hear a podcast, including but not limited to Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Buzzsprout. I look forward to talking to you again on the next episode of Jayme's Journal.